Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you today. My name is Michael Hensley and I'm here on behalf of the Soldiers Project. I'm a veteran of the Iraq War. I served with the 1st Cavalry Division in Iraq in 2004 to 2005. While in Iraq, I served as a combat engineer with 1st Cavalry. My main mission in Iraq was to do combat patrols, act as a quick reaction force to dismantle any hostile threats outside the base, and also to provide security for the explosive ordnance disposal teams. I'm a disabled veteran and I was medically discharged in 2006 from the injuries I suffered in Iraq. In 2007 I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and in 2008 I was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury from the number of explosions that I've been through. Today I'm going to express the need for civilian nonprofit organizations such as the Soldiers Project to take action and fill in the gaps the Veterans Affairs hospitals have left for the veterans to fall through in their mental health treatment. But first of all, I want to tell you about the Soldiers Project and what we do. First and foremost, the Soldiers Project was established to provide free and confidential therapy or psychological services to military personnel and their loved ones. The mission of the Soldiers Project is to bring together volunteer, licensed mental health care professionals in order to provide free and confidential therapy, educate the community regarding the psychological effects and the invisible wounds of war, provide in-depth training on combat trauma to our volunteer therapists, and to provide a networking system for other veteran services organizations to provide treatment for the necessary needs at hand. You might ask, why would there be a need for organizations such as the Soldiers Project? You know, the Veterans Affairs Hospital exists, but to be honest with you, they're under a tremendous amount of stress. There's a large influx of veterans coming back into the system. Over 1 in 6 veterans come home with some form of with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder alone. That's not counting the ones with traumatic brain injuries that suffer depression. There's over 35,000 vets being discharged into the California VA healthcare system each year, and that number is expected to stay the same for many years to come. These mass influx of veterans coming in produces a great amount of stress for the healthcare system. And personally, I've been a victim of the strain on the system. I've dealt with wait times for doctor's appointments for over 2 months for something as simple as a cold.
Wow.
I've had doctors recommend that I come back within a month to make sure the medications they placed me on were working. But to be stuck with an appointment 6 months out. So there's no telling if that medication was even going to work. But the biggest problem with the VA healthcare system is the way they treat PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. They don't offer any individual therapy, they only offer group therapy. Some people will cringe at the sight or the sound of going to a group therapy. Sit around in a circle, talk about your feelings, how you feel, and it's just not something you want to do. But one thing that's hard for people to understand is that there's a significant difference from a combat veteran and somebody who has simply been to Iraq or Afghanistan. Someone who's been to Iraq or Afghanistan would have held a job like a mechanic, an office personnel, a cook, a quartermaster supply, any of those jobs. A combat veteran's experience can be significantly different than someone who has simply been to Iraq. Now, with that being said, when you place a combat veteran in a room full of service members who have simply been to Iraq, it's very hard for them to open up. It's hard to go ahead and say, you know, I'll be the most messed up in the room. And in my personal experience, it doesn't make a combat veteran's PTSD more relative to treatment or more necessary to treat, because PTSD is relative to your situation. If the closest that you ever came to dying was when a mortar landed on your base, you've never seen someone physically die in front of you, that's the extent of where your PTSD comes from, and that's pretty much going to be the extent of it. And again, it doesn't make it more relative, and it doesn't make it more necessary to treat one or the other, but when you place them both in a room together, it's very hard to open up. And from my personal experience in running support groups, a combat veteran is not going to open up and be the most messed up one in the room because it's just hard. Now, group therapy in theory would work well, given that we need to affect the masses, the massive amount of veterans coming back with post-traumatic stress disorder, but the mechanics behind it just don't work. So one benefit to the Soldiers Project is that they provide individual therapy to veterans, but also their loved ones. So therapy for the loved ones is detrimental to the process of healing. The support and understanding of the loved ones around you provide a great deal of help on the road to recovery. The sensitivity and validation of the issue is an immense help when dealing with PTSD. To know what to do and to understand why your service member is acting the way that they're acting, when they're having an outburst of anger, to understand why and what to do with it, to understand why they're so emotionally numb that it just seems like they don't even care to be alive anymore. Now, the Soldiers Project is a free service, which to me is just another benefit. The bottleneck in the VA healthcare system and the claims department, I've been on hold for 3 years waiting for my compensation. Financially things are tight as a veteran. To be able to afford to pay for a therapist on my own is just not possible. Because the Soldiers Project doesn't charge anything, they run specifically on donations. That's what they rely on. Now, some of you here today might not support the current wars on terrorism, and I can understand that, and I can see your issues with the validity of the current conflicts. However, you don't have to be a supporter of the war to support the troops. The Soldiers Project not only runs on donations of money, but also time. The Soldiers Project is run by almost all volunteer staff. Therapists are not compensated at all for their time, for their mileage if they have to drive to see someone, anything like that. So I ask, the next time you're looking to donate either your time, your spare change, or your thoughts and prayers, please consider the Soldiers Project, because I know that I wouldn't be where I am today without them. Now, I want to leave you with a quote from Ronald Reagan and another one from Colin Powell. Ronald Reagan said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." And Colin Powell said, "Our responsibility as lucky Americans is to try to give back to this country as much as it has given us as we continue on our American journey." Thank you.
Thank you.